How do I sum up an absolutely amazing summer? Being a member of the 2012 Pfizer Beef Intern team was an extraordinary and remarkable experience, one that I will never forget. I was lucky enough to be based out of my home state of South Dakota. South Dakota is a marvelous place. The population ratio of cattle to people is 5-1. Needless to say, finding the cattle was the easy part of my job. Finding their owners? Well, that was a different story. The beginning of my internship was definitely discouraging. Yes, I loved traveling South Dakota and meeting new producers, but my sales were not headed in the right direction. For the most part, producers were just wrapping up their spring turnout programs. These producers hadn't even received their bill on Pfizer products they had just used. So, considering an early purchase of products for this fall was not on their list of priorities. I did, however, feel great on the amount of feedback I received from producers on Pfizer products they had already used, as well as the amount of producers I convinced to use Pfizer products this fall. I also built relationships with veterinarians throughout South Dakota that are going to keep me posted on how their Pfizer products sell this year compared to previous years. Unfortunately, I was not able to work with the Bovatech 2.2 blocks. Distributors throughout South Dakota don't keep the blocks on hand. Most diets in South Dakota already contain some form of Bovatech, so the demand for the Bovatech 2.2 blocks isn't quite there yet. The Cattle Master Gold was also difficult to promote. Out of the dozen clinics I worked with, maybe 3 of the veterinarians stressed the product. The Cattle Master Gold hasn't caught the attention of South Dakota veterinarians or producers just yet. Now the Dectomax Injectable and Dectomax Poron, those are products that are extremely liked in South Dakota. Numerous people made comments on the high price, but they all knew that the upfront cost was well worth it. As I visited with producers, I received some great questions. But the question I was asked most often was not, how many pounds will my calves gain by using your product, or what parasites are we focusing on? The number one question asked was, have you met my son? I quickly learned that the sons may not buy product on the spot, but they do get their fathers to call me back for a follow-up appointment. After my first week in the field, my internship took a slight pause. I had the honor of competing in the 2012 Miss South Dakota pageant. I competed with a platform of be bold and zip into a healthy lifestyle with beef. My platform promoted how important it is to have beef in your diet. A family friend stated perfectly why I was so happy to be competing with this platform. She said, Callie has the cattle barns of South Dakota tune in to the Miss South Dakota pageant for the very first time. Competing for the title of Miss South Dakota with the support of producers, breed associations, as well as the South Dakota Beef Industry Council was absolutely amazing. I even had producers attend the pageant in Hot Springs. What a support system! I was able to come away with the title of Miss Congeniality, even with the challenge of one of the judges being a PETA activist. After the pageant, this girl was back on the road. Living an on-the-road lifestyle left me with so many stories over my unique experiences. Some experiences included the humor of my GPS. Whether the road was minimum maintenance or completely covered with water, my GPS thought anything was possible. And I mean anything. As I crossed the Missouri River and worked on the west side of the state, my stories got even better. I was in gorgeous cattle country. I was in an area where you didn't even consider using your phone, and FM radio stations were hard to come by. This being said, I had lots of time to think. Who am I kidding? I was on the path to solving world peace. At one point, I even caught myself waving to cattle along the road. Staying in Mobridge, a town near the North Dakota border, left the deepest memories with me. I had beautiful scenery as I stayed along the Missouri River, but my hotel choices, well, they were interesting. I was able to choose from the Country Inn, the Moose Inn, or the Wrangler Inn. I ended up staying at the recommended Wrangler Inn just to be attacked at 2 a.m. by beetles. And these weren't just any beetles, these were big, loud, buzzing beetles. The locals had no idea what kind of beetles these were, but they gave me a lot of credit for staying the rest of the week in the hotel and not sleeping in my car. Another great experience I had was attending a seminar put on by Dakota Land Feeds and Pfizer. During this seminar, I was able to help manage the Pfizer booth, follow up with producers I had already met, as well as introduce myself to producers I would be visiting throughout my summer. This seminar had speakers covering nutrition, animal handling, and grain economics. The final speaker of the day was by far my favorite. This speaker is my role model and my father. Because of this internship, I was able to fully understand why South Dakota's strongest economic feature is agriculture. South Dakota is a state full of people who care about their cattle, their land, and the responsibility of feeding our nation. Comparing my internship with Pfizer to internships my peers had in the agricultural field makes me incredibly thankful for the opportunity I was given. My office was not a cubicle, and I didn't have a desk. My office was the rolling plains of South Dakota. I was able to see cattle of numerous breeds. I saw the popular Angus and Simmental herds, but I also found Salyer, Piedmontese, and even Scottish Highland cattle. I also saw feedlots of every size as well. One of the largest feedlots I visited had a processing shed fully equipped with heated floors, an overhead scale, and hydraulics that ran the gates just outside the shed. This shed also had a bunkhouse with a full kitchen and a laundry room. Working cattle here didn't seem like such a chore to me. One day in the field, I had put on over 600 miles and worked in 2 time zones, yet I hadn't left South Dakota. This was the day I decided I have crossed the Missouri River more than anyone I know, but I hadn't actually touched the water. My GPS wasn't exactly happy with me, but I took a slight detour to find a dock and touch the Missouri River for the very first time. And what a view it was. After a trip to Kalamazoo, Michigan, over 9,500 miles on my company vehicle, meeting over 350 producers, and now a trip to New Jersey, my summer internship has come to an end. I had an unbelievably great time and built lifelong relationships with producers from the beautiful state of South Dakota. I had the summer of a lifetime, and I am incredibly thankful for the opportunity I was given.